Hey everybody, welcome back to theclinicaltrialsguru.com. Again, it's theclinicaltrialsguru.com. Thank you very much for watching. Make sure you subscribe to YouTube, subscribe to the blog, also iTunes and Stitcher. I have podcasts. I'm going to get much more involved in the podcast because I've noticed that on the weekends, my YouTube channel and my website traffic for sure goes way down. But for some reason, the podcast traffic goes up on the weekends. So I'm assuming it's because people are driving or working out. So I respect that, and I'll be creating some content for you guys on the podcast. All right, so stay tuned for more of that. Today's question is for research sites, all right? And the question is it mandatory to attend investigator meetings? So for those of you who don't know, an investigator meeting is when all the sites that are participating in a particular protocol are invited to an investigator meeting, right? The sponsor hosts this meeting generally before a study starts, where all the sites who are participating, sometimes from all over the world, come to one location. Usually it's in Dallas, Texas, unfortunately. Nothing against Dallas, but it's not the most exotic location. Sometimes they're like in Las Vegas or Florida or big conference or convention cities. Basically the hotels are usually pretty nice. They have food. They're like 2 or 3 day events where they will basically go through the entire protocol. They're going to answer questions. They're going to talk about what they know about the drug so far, about the investigational product or the medical device. They're going to talk about what they anticipate to be some challenges with the study. They're going to talk about recruitment techniques. They're going to get different people certified to perform different assessments that the protocol calls for. So generally it's a really good idea to attend. The problem with this, as is with the case in many things in clinical research, these investigator meetings are really intended for the PIs, primarily, the principal investigators to attend. And the problem with most principal investigators is the ones that are really good are very busy. Either they're very busy with a bunch of other studies, and maybe they have lots of other investigator meetings lined up, so their schedules sometimes conflict, or they're just busy in their private practice. They have so many patients. This is why they were selected for the trial by the sponsor. They have so many patients. They're so busy in their private practice that they don't really have time for investigator meetings. They barely have time to conduct the clinical trial the way the sponsor wants them to. So that's sort of a deeper philosophical issue with principal investigators, but it certainly applies to investigator meetings. So I'm assuming this is where the question stems from, as far as is it mandatory for investigators to attend the investigator meeting? And the answer is no, it's not. Okay, and typically nothing bad will happen if the PI doesn't attend. What you should do is try to find a replacement for the PI to attend, so maybe a sub-investigator that's an MD, right? So most sites will have backups, which are called sub-investigators. They essentially back up or handle some of the assessments that the PI can also handle, but they're not the main principal investigator. So oftentimes sub-Is, because they're not doing as many trials as the PIs, actually have more time, right? And so they're able to attend. And they're sort of curious because they want to learn what investigator meetings are all about, because they want to be PIs too. So if your PI can't go, try to get your sub-I to go. For sure you should have one of your coordinators go, right? There's almost no reason for a study coordinator not to attend, unless of course they're busy at the clinic, in which case you should send a backup coordinator. Absolutely you should have at least one member from your site attend, but it is not mandatory for your PI to attend, although it's definitely encouraged and recommended. Now, some sponsors won't really care if your PI doesn't attend, especially if they're experienced and they've kind of been around the block. But if your PI is brand new, they probably should be encouraged to attend. And from my experiences, most PIs that are brand new do want to attend at least their first couple of investigator meetings, just so that they get an idea and a general feel for what research is all about. But if your PI is experienced, then it's not necessarily mandatory that they attend. And so sponsors understand this. Now, if nobody from your site attends the investigator meeting, you might have a problem. You might have the sponsor or the project manager call you and say, hey, what's going on? How come nobody from your site is attending? That's generally a bad look. So you typically want at least the PI to go or the study coordinator to go. In an ideal world, I should say, you want your PI to go and your study coordinator to go, and you want to fill up all the slots that they're allotting for you. Typically, they'll have 2 or 3 invitations per site, right? One is always going to be the PI, one's always going to be the coordinator, and one, if there is an extra slot, is for a sub-I or another coordinator, okay? Now, sometimes they only give 2 slots, so whichever the case may be, you want to fill up all the slots. Even if the PI can't go, you want to send the sub-I. If the coordinator can't go, you want to send the backup coordinator. You do want site representation there. There's a lot of value for going to these investigator meetings, networking with sites. You can figure out kind of what kind of budgets other sites are negotiating if they want to share that information. Some sites do, some sites don't. It's really up to you as a networker, and so you're going to put your networking skills to work and see what other sites have been able to negotiate. Then you could also discuss how other sites are recruiting, what's worked for them, best practices, things of that nature. Always good to network with other people in your industry, right? Who are not necessarily your competitors. Right? So is it mandatory? No. But for brand new PIs, it's certainly recommended. And you absolutely, I think it's mandatory that at least somebody from the site show up to the investigator meeting, right? Dan from theclinicaltrialsguru.com. Take care.